All right, folks, I'm really excited to talk about this. I got a shout out on MSNBC. The Marcellus brothers was on the podcast with Nicole Wallace called The Best People, and they were kind enough to give the channel a shout out. So we're going to play that clip, and then I'm going to talk more about key moments in that interview that really stood out to me that I think we should be talking more about. So without any further ado, let's roll the clip of the shout out.
If you think about our network, we have the Midas Touch network, the Midas Touch YouTube channel, about 5 million subscribers, about 350 million views a month on that YouTube channel.
It's incredible.
It's been incredible that it has connected with the audience the way it has.
Yeah.
But then we realize also that in order for us to scale and grow also, I think the best way to do it is to really promote other authentic voices, like a Katie Fang as she pursues a career in independent media, but then also cultivating talent from kind of the ground up, like old school record industry style, when they would used to go to the local pub and hear which band was getting, exciting in the community.
Yeah.
We're looking to see who are those creators of the future. So a good example of that is, we partnered with a guy named Adam Mockler. He's 22 years old, Gen Z, over 1 million subscribers now on YouTube. When we met him, it was in the thousands. And he's one of these people who's an incredible debater. He goes on right-wing media. His style's slightly different than ours, but he'll go on right-wing media and debate. But, he has a Gen Z audience. We have a channel led by someone named Tennessee Brando, and he speaks to people in red states. We have a legal channel with some of the top legal minds called Legal AF, where we can also platform the ACLU and all of these pro-democracy legal groups who never really get the attention to explain their filings. And so to me, that's how you kind of scale out.
Folks, I got to be honest with you. A lot of this is really surreal to me because I don't think people truly understands exactly where I came from. I spent over 20 years of my life playing in dive bars in East Tennessee, Southeast Kentucky, playing music in those places. The rowdy kind of places that your mom would tell you to never set foot in because you might not make it out alive. And I absolutely thrived on that madness. I truly did for a long time, but I scraped by. And I truly was the definition of a starving artist. I spent many years just couch surfing and staying with different friends and different people and getting into a whole lot of things I probably shouldn't have. And so if you'd have told me back then, if you could go back in time to like 2008, you could find like a 28-year-old Brando playing in some dive bar, and you could tell him that one day he would be part of this massive media network and would be getting shout outs on MSNBC, he would have laughed in your face and said there's no way that would ever happen. But what happened for me personally is that, when we hit into the pandemic, of course, all the gigs got canceled. And when those gigs got taken away, it was like, now we've got to find another way to go about doing things. And I started helping out a friend of mine who started up a internet radio station, and I played DJ basically, where I just sat and played local music and pushed and promoted it. And we didn't get political with that. We didn't talk politics on there. We just talked about the music that was being made during the pandemic. But that kind of gave me an idea of how to go about talking to an audience in a different manner, not being the front man on stage. So now, I'm talking on an internet radio show. I have my own show on there called Serious Honk. And, we had a lot of fun with that. And I would interview local musicians via the phone because we were in the middle of the pandemic and we all couldn't get out and do anything. So that kind of set the stage for it. But there were so many issues that were happening that I said to myself, I got to be talking about this stuff. And there would be nights where I would be on the radio and I would be sitting there and I'd be playing some music, and then I would play a song that might have a little bit of a political leaning to it or a little bit of more of a message about, social commentary behind it. And I would catch myself, talking just a little bit about it, but wanting to push it further and talk more about it. And so then it was like, I think, fall of 2020, somewhere through there, when the country singer from my part of the world in Kentucky, Tyler Childers, made an album called Long Violent History. And, a lot of people was out to cancel him because they said he went woke with that. The song was about police brutality. And, a lot of people were saying they wanted to cancel him. And all I wanted to do was be like, hey, guys, have you ever thought about this from another perspective? This is one of our own talking. Why don't you just listen to him and hear him out? He's got a good point here. And then that video went viral. One thing led to another, and I ended up partnering with the Midas Touch Network. So it's been a hell of a ride, but it was starting off talking about those issues at hand that really drove me. And I think that's what, made me and Midas Touch partner up so well, because we had that same focus in mind. So I'm going to play this clip where Ben talks about that, because we're definitely on the same page with how we go about talking to the audience. Take a look.
Again, it goes back to listening to people and hearing what the concerns are out there right now. People can't afford homes. They can't afford to pay their rent. They're worried they're about to be kicked off of health care. They feel psychologically tortured living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
They care about the climate. People care about the climate.
Yeah.
They're worried that FEMA isn't going to be there for them when hurricane season hits. They're seeing FEMA not there for people during disasters already. They're seeing a deranged and unhinged person in the Oval Office who's like painted the whole thing gold, attacking foreign leaders there and destroying our alliances. And people are scared and they're worried, and they don't hear people talking to them about those things.
Yeah.
And so when I approach the coverage of a Jesse Waters, it is to reflect the outrage and put the BS radar detector on, but it's also to let the viewer and the audience know why are they covering it this way. And it's because they don't want to talk about these other things. The reason why they're making this about, oh, John Thune is this masculine, strong man. Look at him in the gym, and look at Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
He's a woman. He's a girl. Look at that. Is because they don't want to talk about the fact that they're taking away your health care. They're shifting billions of trillions of dollars in tax cuts for the wealthy. This is going to be one of the single biggest transformations of wealth from people who need the money to people who frankly don't need the money. And I just describe that as the kind of weapon of mass distraction. And I think you have to then make that other connection. Why does this matter to me, the viewer? And that's how I try to shape those segments that I do.
As I'm sitting there listening to him say that, I think a lot back on my days of when I was that starving artist. I wasn't living to paycheck. I didn't have a paycheck back then. I literally lived hand to mouth. And I saw people in my part of the world being duped and manipulated by Fox News, and duped and manipulated by, Republican politicians. And I was just sitting there looking around going, these people are not anything like us, okay? And I say this so many times in my videos, but it's true. Donald Trump, when he put on that hard hat and pretended to be a coal miner in West Virginia, he was cosplaying. He doesn't know what it's like to be one of those miners. He doesn't know what it's like to live that life every day. Never walked down a dirt road, never had a callus on his hands, wouldn't wipe his nose on our Sunday best. I've said those lines over and over the last 5 years. It's because I truly feel that when I look around at the people in my part of the world who I really do genuinely care about. And I think a lot of times they don't feel that way because I'm calling out their favorite politician, or I'm calling out someone who they consider their leader. But what I'm trying to say is these people do not care about you, and they are trying to distract you so that they can become richer. And, that's pretty much, what the Fox News model is. It's a distraction to get people all caught up in these culture wars to feel like they're fighting for something, so then the billionaires can go to the bank. And in this next clip, Jordy and Brett does a great job talking about Fox News and the way that they just went about manipulating audiences. And we're going to play this clip, and then I'm going to talk more about how I've seen this play out in my part of the world.
You framed it there perfectly, too, when you were talking about the Jesse Waters. It's weird. It's just flat out weird. And I feel like, and this is kind of network wide, folks have been gaslit into thinking so much of this is normal, and it's all become so normalized, and that it's refreshing to an audience of people who are truly pro-democracy that are watching this in their rooms or with their families. Isn't this weird? And they're being told, no, it's normal.
Yeah.
So then when they hear, us reporting on it, or you reporting on it, that now they're like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. This is weird stuff that we're witnessing.
I think the deviousness of what Fox has done is they've created a alternative universe world of news that looks like news to people. Mm-hmm. And they throw in some news that is straight news, and they do have good reporters on their staff. Like, there are people who actually do a good job behind the scenes there. But they put up all the trappings of a news station, the chyrons, the sets, they have Fox Business Channel. They're throwing all this information at you that you're like, okay, yeah, I'm watching the news. I'm watching a news morning show. And then the things they are saying are just so outrageous. But I think people are so conditioned to believe that they are watching a legitimate news program. And of course, every, organization out there is going to have their tilt just by nature. But what they're doing, I think, is far more nefarious than anybody. I think it's clear that they are like operatives of the Trump administration, of the Republican Party. They have their talking points each day. They are coordinated, in my opinion, with what's going on. And they use all these trappings of a news organization in order to do so much damage to the country every night.
And folks, I can tell you that in my part of the world, no matter where you can go to a barbershop, doctor's office, dentist office, waiting room, restaurant, no matter where you're at, there's a big TV somewhere, sports bar, dive bar, there's a big TV somewhere, and Fox News is turned on, and everybody just believes automatically that that's what they're supposed to be listening to. And they sit there and they read those ridiculous headlines, and they get caught up in those culture wars, and they feel like they're fighting along with them. And I've often compared it to like a WWE style of rhetoric and style of audience, because the audience is living vicariously through the Jesse Waters of the world. But the sad part is Fox News is speaking to people that I grew up around and I worked alongside of, and I played music too for all those years. I've stood on loading docks, working jobs with guys who would be pointing out, hey, did you see what Jesse Waters was talking about? Did you see what they're saying on the news? And then a lot of them, I think, realizes that Fox News is bullshit, and they don't really want to say that they heard it there. So, I don't watch Fox, and then they'll try to go over and talk about Joe Rogan or someone else who is basically, Fox News is kissing cousin. So, it's one of those things where they gravitate toward that because they feel as though they're fighting for something. And all I've ever tried to do is point out that they don't care about you, that they're manipulating you, they're grifting you, they're just trying to get richer, and they're trying to distract you from the issues at hand. And how many times here on the channel have I said, the gay couple across the street does not affect how you feed your family. The trans person does not affect how you feed your family. Let them live their lives. You live and let live. Let the immigrant come to this country and find a better way. Stop demonizing everybody and putting everybody in a box and calling everybody a criminal and everybody a gang member. Stop believing all the bullshit conspiracy theories that the Joe Rogans of the world spreads, because they're easily debunked if you just look into it for a minute. And so for me, it's been about calling those things out that just did not look right to me, and that I felt like was insulting to our intelligence. And also where I'm from, I felt like it was very insulting to our culture. I just feel like that they used a lot of the things that, we were brought up with, they used them against us. People in my part of the world are brought up to believe in God. They're brought up to be patriotic and to be proud of, being an American. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things, but Fox News and the MAGA Republican Party, the Donald Trumps of the world, they capitalized on that. And they used it for all the wrong reasons. And I've just been over here trying to point it out. But again, I want to give a huge shout out back, and thanks to Ben, Brett, and Jordy Mycelis. They're dear friends of mine, and we're partners together. And I'm so honored to be part of their network, a small part of their network. It's great working with them every day. I wouldn't be if I didn't agree with what they're doing and their approach to it. The reason why that I didn't hesitate really to partner up is because we kind of already were. We were going along in the same trenches, kind of trying to get the same point across, coming from different parts of the world with a different perspective. And I just respect the hell out of those guys, and I appreciate them so much. So we'll keep pushing forward. We'll keep calling this stuff out. And we'll see how far we can take it. But I truly do appreciate everyone for coming along on this crazy ride with me. We're a long way from the dive bars in East Tennessee, for sure. And we're headed toward 1 million subscribers. So again, thank y'all so much. And again, shout out to the Mighty Mighty. Love y'all, and thank you very much.